What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Justin from Justin Paul Sports. It is a hot one out here in the desert. As you guys know, I am in Arizona. It's been crispy the last week. We're not here to talk too much about the weather, but we did hit 119 degrees, and Lord have mercy, that is hot for anybody. But speaking of stuff that's hot, what we're going to do is talk about stuff that's not. We're not talking about Tony Romo. We're not talking about Shamar Stewart and his ankle breaking. What we're talking about are 15 players that we want to avoid in this upcoming fantasy football season. And Lord knows we always want to get a list like this. Everybody wants to know who's on top and who's hot. And everybody likes to know who to get and who the sleepers are. Well, we're going to tell you the people that are going to put your team to sleep, maybe put it 6 feet under. But first, let me introduce my co-host with the most from the great state of Mississippi. First, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Bobby from Bobby's Big Board. How are we feeling today, Bobby?
Always good to talk ball, man. I'm excited to talk about some people that I'm not so high on. Each of us picked 5 players, so
yep.
You'd say 10. We got one more person joining. I'm excited to have him on the show. But 15 players, each of us picked 5, and we're going to give us our best reasonings for why they're on here. There's going to be some hot ones on here for sure, though.
Before we get to that, ladies and gentlemen, we have an announcement. Next week starts our 4-week-long SEC preview special, the only conference that matters. If you don't like the SEC, you don't know ball. You just don't know ball, or you don't care about ball, or you just want to go and, only care about the NFL, and that's okay too. But, if you don't like the SEC or respect the SEC, you probably cut your spaghetti up with your fork or whatever it is. You just do some goofy stuff. You probably, take tuna to work to where everybody can smell it and all that nonsense. But speaking of tuna, let's bring on our co-host for today, who has filled in multiple times. It is the fantasy football strategist, Mr. J. Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. We have 7 viewers. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. What's going on the East Coast there, sir?
Not too much, just chilling, ready to talk some guys. We are fading at their current ADPs.
And how much do you guys value ADP when it comes to drafting? Because for me personally, a quick tidbit about what I do when I draft is for redraft leagues, I kind of got to go with who I think the best player is on the board as opposed to what's going on with, am I getting the best value ADP wise? I mean, I know there's multiple leagues with best ball and all this and that. We got a bunch of viewers tuning in. We just got some saying, what's up? Want to acknowledge our reviews. What's good? Thank you for tuning in. You cut my spaghetti in small bites. God bless you. That's what you got to do. And that's all good. So thank you guys for tuning in. So what's your guys' take on that real quick?
On ADP, I'll just say something quick because this is strategist all the way for sure. This is his realm more so mine. I just kind of go with I kind of mix Vegas's lines with ADP, just kind of seeing if I can sneak some value like a Javonte Williams this year, something like that. I think ADP is valuable where you can find value in certain rounds, especially. We'll be talking about one of the running backs that we think is pretty high on ADP compared to what we expect him to do. But yeah, that's basically my take on it.
Yeah, essentially you can just try to get value. You just think sometimes you disagree with where players are going, so you're going to avoid them at their current ADP, essentially.
Well, speaking of that, let's see our players to avoid. We're going to pull up. Bobby does all the graphics, ladies and gentlemen. He absolutely is killing it. Let's take a look here. Got another comment. Vegas is a really good gauge. I think it can be. When it comes to sports betting and things along that sort, you can definitely take it into effect. But when it comes to ADPs and drafts, you really got to be mindful of who you're putting out there. So Let's go ahead and get started, Bobby. What do we got on the board here?
So the way I did it, we each picked 5 players. So we're going to go in order here. Justin, we've got his players going first. Then it's going to be fantasy football strategist. Then it's going to be me. And we're going to go ahead and kind of go over this. The first player that Justin picked was Christian McCaffrey. I think it's a pretty obvious one, but kind of go ahead and give your general thoughts about Christian McCaffrey and why he's such a fade for you. For me, he's basically a coin flip. He's going to win you your league or he's not going to play at all. That's kind of how his whole career's been, RB1 or RB60.
Well, last year, 2025, he played the entire season. 311 carries, 1,202 yards, about 4 yards per carry. Efficiency's kind of down a little bit, but he had 10 rushing touchdowns, 100 receptions, 102 receptions, 924 yards and 7 receiving TDs, about 413 touches. That was an all-time high for him. Plus, you know what's going on in the playoffs. This isn't pick on the 49ers, as I love to do. They pick on themselves. But C-Mac last year was clearly RB number 1. But here's why I think you should avoid him in 2025 or 2026, excuse me. It's a historic workload when you're 30 years of age, right? All those touches, generally, you're going to see more efficiency drop. Sometimes you just have a volume king. I think this may be the case here. You can get reduced roles, like you talked about earlier. You could be getting injuries. The 49ers, you know, they even said they're going to talk about lightening his carries compared to last year. So he had to do all that work last year in order to maintain the RB1 status. And even if he stays healthy, I think that there could be like a 15 to 25% drop in production. The receiving role, I think he's still going to be pretty good at that and difficult to replace, which keeps his floor kind of higher. But the combination of age and extreme value previously makes it unlikely that he's just able to go that high and repeat overall as a number 1 running back. I think this is just somebody that I would want to avoid for this year. Just let somebody else risk it. It's a high payoff if he does it again, but I'm not so sure that he does.
And I do want to segue that into this. So Jordan James did fracture a rib either today or yesterday, which is a huge blow because I don't know if Isaac Garindo's in shape. We heard some offseason rumors about that. Strategist, I got a couple questions. That running back room is really barren behind Christian McCaffrey. We know historically Kyle Shanahan just wants to run one guy into the ground. But with Christian McCaffrey, he's one of those all or nothing type guys. Do you think the workload still holds up? I think he's going to still have a bunch of carries. It's just the durability that's the only thing that concerns me.
Yeah, obviously the durability is a concern. Like you said, he's going to win you your league or single-handedly lose you your league. He's going to be a high ceiling player or a nothing floor player. He's definitely regressed as far as efficiency as a rusher. I think at some point in the future, the days of him having the league-winning elite RB1 upside are going to be a little bit lower than they have been because of the lack of rushing. I don't think he's going to see an even larger role than he's seeing now as the receiver personally. But I do think he's going to be a really good player for a long time, and essentially it's just a coin flip. And I think he's going to easily dominate the touches as long as he's healthy. But if he doesn't, it's just going to be up to who's number 2.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to just throw away your league on a coin flip in the first round, I think Christian McCaffrey is the guy you go with. But moving on, we're going to go straight into another 49er right off the rip. Strategist picked Ricky Pearsall. Unfortunately, he's been really not healthy for basically his entire NFL career. We've seen games where he's been really productive, high volume, and then we've seen games where he's basically not there at all. And that's been his whole career thus far. How do you feel about Pearsall, and what was your thought process in picking him?
Yeah, so originally I had picked Neighbors, but we got good news for Neighbors today, so switched over to Ricky Pearsall. With Ricky Pearsall, the talent is not the issue. It's the same thing with Nico Collins, players like that, where you can see that getting 100 yards in a game isn't rare for him really when you take a look at his games, but he's just never healthy. It's one thing after the other. Obviously he was shot, so that's never fun. But a lot of the times with these guys that have these repeated soft tissue injuries, it's just very hard for them to pay off their ADP because of them just not playing the full allotment of games. So it's not a talent thing. It's just health. I'm out.
And I think that's the biggest thing with Pearsall, right, is the health. I think he was overdrafted. Honestly, I thought his hands were pretty good. He's got some good qualities. Didn't think he was really there for the route running or the overall just athleticism. I just thought he was a really good hands kind of power slot receiver. Justin, any thoughts on the San Francisco wideout room? Who do you think pulls ahead in this wide receiver room with Ayuk more than likely never playing another snap for the 49ers? I mean, you've got Pearsall, you've got some other guys there, but I mean, who do you think pulls through in this receiver room? That's not CMC.
I'll tell you, like, the 49ers added, Mike Evans in the offseason, and they got Christian Kirk, and they drafted DeJon Stribling.
Yep.
So, and they still distribute the ball to C-Mac, like you said, and they distribute it to Kittle. I mean, it's just kind of a bottleneck offense. I think I would skip pretty much a lot of the 49ers players because you're going to not, with Pearsall. No, I mean, just like it's a really spread out offense. I just don't know which one, any of these players I'm really going to go heavy on. Are you going to go on a 38-year-old Mike Evans?
Kittle?
I mean, but Kittle also has injury histories. They're buying electromagnetic field, and they won't move their stuff over there. I mean, it's just
you might get him for equally cheap, though.
Their head coach is getting injured, for Christ's sake. I mean, it's just I just think the 49ers are one of two teams in the NFC that are going to regress offensively, specifically with all their stuff. I mean, they downgraded, Ayuk's causing all this mayhem. The 49ers are just a headache. I think last year was an anomaly. I think that this is a team that's in trouble this season. So,
I mean, I can see that for sure. Shout out Delth here saying Pearsall's the 50 Cent of wideouts. That's crazy. We're going to move on. Christian Kirk is also hurt. But here I'm going to go ahead and talk about my first pick. It's Chris Olave. Shout out to Deke. Anybody that knows Deke, he just traded for Chris Olave, traded Pearsall, who we just talked about, a first, a third in one of our dynasty leagues, plus Kyle Monunga, who I like a lot. Chris Olave,
good job, Deke,
has always been a guy that, unfortunately, he's a super talented guy, but he's just unfortunately been a part of some really bad offenses. And last year, I think, is an anomaly. I think the Saints team did come on strong last year. I'm just not fully bought in on Tyler Shuck. I'm just not bought in on him yet. And with a top 5 pick in Jordan Tyson being added to the team, they actually have a running back now in Travis Etienne. Alvin Kamara hasn't really been that productive over the past few years now. So I think with the mixture of all of that, I just don't think it's just going to be Chris Olave over and over and over. He's been, unfortunately, a volume merchant last season. And I think he was like top 3 in targets this year. So for me, I'm out on Chris Olave with the additions to the offense and also just not being bought in on Chuck. What do you guys think overall on Chris Olave?
Yeah, he's gone from being the only guy worth anything in his own offense, passing game-wise, to being suddenly surrounded by a bunch of decent pass catchers, including the first-round wide receiver. I believe third-round tight end, if I'm not mistaken, too. So, yeah. I think the total targets probably dip a little bit.
I think significantly. They brought in Devon Bailey's been there. Jalen Polk, who I thought was honestly one of the worst receivers that I've seen come out in a significant amount of time.
Oh, come on. You're just trying to throw shade at Kalen DeBoer for what he did at Washington.
Jalen Polk, he was fine at Washington. He turned into a nothing burger in the NFL. Yeah. That's crazy. But, I mean, y'all remember what was going on a few years ago for the Saints? I mean, they were throwing to Bub Means and Mason Tipton. That was their stop. Oh my goodness!
No, that's accurate. That comment's accurate.
Yeah, he was cleared off of them though. But yeah.
Overall, Justin, any thoughts on Chris Olave? I mean, I think that's a big concern. I think he's a great player. I just don't. I said this in a previous episode a few years ago, more than a few years ago now. Drew Lock on the Broncos, his rookie year, I believe, he went the last 6 games of the season, went 5-1 and was kind of going crazy. I feel the exact same way about Tyler Shuck. I don't think he's even as talented as Drew Lock is, and that's saying something. So I wasn't big on Tyler Shuck. I don't think me or the fantasy football strategist was. So, yeah, I'm out on the Saints team. I think they're a little bit too overhyped right now, and I'm staying away from Chris Olave.
So, like I said on our show last week, or it was on when I was on a show with somebody else, I picked 2 teams from the NFC South to make the playoffs, and this was one of them. This is my shock team of the year. I know you guys like to give me grief about how I feel about the Panthers and how I feel about the Saints, and we'll get into that in a second, but we're talking about 15 players to avoid. Well, Olave, like you said, he's got a history of health problems. He's had concussions. He's got blood clots. I mean, We don't know what the contract situation is going on there. He's already limited in practice. But a lot of it goes, like you said, with how Tyler Shuck's going to progress. But, what they're doing, the Saints, from what I read today, is they're splitting RB1 between Kamara and ETN, right? And then you got Jordan Tyson in there. I think Shuck kind of lit it up. I think he's more talented than Drew Lock ever was. I don't know what the Drew Lock hype was when he was at Missouri. It was really hard for me to digest all that. But as far as being a player to avoid, this is somebody that may be wide receiver 1 on the team, but how much is that going to help your fantasy team, and how much is that going to uplift you to have a quality season? Is he a league winner? I'm not so sure.
The best thing Drew Lock ever did was win the Titans the first overall pick by winning a meaningless game at the end of his Giants tenure.
When he was with the Giants, yeah, he threw like 5 touchdowns that game, I believe. I mean, he went absolutely.
I had neighbors. It was awesome.
So I want to say one thing about Chris Olave. We don't have Derek Carr on the team. That I'm pretty sure Derek Carr was betting the unders on all of Chris Olave's season props, because he was intentionally trying to get Chris Olave killed every time he threw him the ball. Seriously, go back and watch that tape. He's trying to kill Chris Olave. So I don't think Tyler Shuck's trying to do that, because he's had his fair share of injuries and he doesn't want to end up in a nursing home since he's already like 36 years old. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. This is another, check out that tongue action. That's crazy. All right. Anyways, we're going to go to the second player Justin picked, and that was Devon Achane. I'm going to do a quick thing about Devon Achane. Last year, faded the hell out of Devon Achane. I'm not doing that again. This offense sucks. I can name maybe 2 players on this offense that's not Devon Achane and Malik Willis. I think this offense flows all the way through him. I'm not fading him again because I looked stupid last year. But, Justin, what are your thoughts on fading Devon Achane this year? Is it just because the team you think is going to suck this bad?
Well, he had, around 1,300 yards. He had high yards per carry last year, 67 grabs, almost 1,900 total yards of scrimmage, 12 touchdowns, finishes the RB5 last year, remained healthy, and was pretty productive. I mean, I liked Achane coming out of college. I thought he was the best running back out there. It's hard for me to give praise to Texas A&M players, but nonetheless, we're just being real about it. But like you said, the Dolphins, they're going to be one of the weakest teams. They may be picking number 1 overall in the draft next year. We don't know what Coach Hafley is going to do down there. We know he's got Malik Willis, who he likes a lot, brought down from Green Bay. And he's got Achane, but there's no Waddle. There's nothing else there. Everything's kind of gone, so it's going to reduce scoring opportunities, and it'll probably change the game plan for the Miami Dolphins, right? Achane's also a little bit smaller for a running back, and that could be kind of how durable he is. When he's on. But he has been known to miss time. He is kind of, I don't want to say soft, but he is kind of ginger when it comes to the injury front. He's missing time. I think that there's about a 25% reduction in his production this upcoming season. But due to, like you said, the team situation, new coach, I mean, the overall roster is worse than it is before. I just think that he's not a candidate that you can have better options before he gets drafted.
Strategists, I want to just tell you some of these names on this offense, okay? Malik Washington, Jalen Tolbert, Tutu Atwell, Theo Weiss Jr., Chris Bell, which we do like some Chris Bell, Kevin Coleman I do like, but they're both rookies. And then you got Jalen Reagor. That's your wide receiver room. Your starting tight end's Greg Dulcich. And then you've got Ollie Gordon, who we saw that was super productive for 1 year, and that was it. Donovan Edwards, who got cut from the team. He was drafted. He went undrafted, and he got cut. So we're looking at like nothing on this offense.
Wait, who was that tight end again?
Greg Dulcich, who you called out. You thought he's going to be a sleeper, which compared to ADP, I think you might be able to grab. He might be the Brenton Strange of this year, because he just has nobody else to worry about in terms of just in that tight end room. I don't know any of those people besides Ben Sims, and he's the 4th. He's a blocking tight end. But you hear all of those names, strategist. Do you think they change what they did last year? Because last year it was just Devon Achane dump off, outside handoffs to Achane. They got a completely different offensive scheme now with McDaniel gone. I mean. So how do you feel about Devon Achane coming into this year? I'm not fading him again. I can't do it.
I'd be fine fading him at his around RB5 ADP for players like Ashton Genty who go behind him typically, or at least depending on the platform you're referencing. And James Cook is another one that I'd probably feel better about Cook just because the offensive environment is a lot better. But yeah, I think it's going to flow pretty much entirely through Devon Achane on the ground, a good amount through the air. I think it's going to be pretty rough at first. We'll see if Chris Bell ends up coming back, and looks decent maybe by the end of the year. Who knows? But yeah, I think it's just not going to be that great. I mean,
this offense is probably not going to be that great, but he's going to get a lot of targets. I do want to say one thing before we move on from Achane. So we got a comment. Willis doesn't throw to the RBs like that. Can you name one player for the Packers that's a good pass catcher at the running back spot? Like Emmanuel Wilson's Josh Jacobs don't be catching passes like that. I just don't think he's ever had a good target to throw to. So I think Malik Willis, with how smart and how much he's developed over the past couple of years in Green Bay, I think he might be dumping off to Achane a lot more than people expect. But
it's just not a part of the Packers offense.
Shout out. Next up is something I was really sad to see from you strategists was Justin Jefferson. Yeah. I'm going to assume it's not talent-based whatsoever, and I think this is entirely based on Kyler Murray not being great to Marvin Harrison Jr. and J.J. McCarthy just being a bad quarterback. Am I getting the right thing here?
Yeah, I'll give some more information on that. So, yeah, with Justin Jefferson, not a talent. It's just I don't like where he's going in terms of his ADP. So he's going off as the wide receiver 6 on Sleeper, Yahoo, and ESPN. And it's coming off a wide receiver 21 finish in a full 17-game season. Players I like more, such as George Pickens, Drake London, and A.J. Brown, typically go below him. This past year, he had 3 100-yard games and 8 below 50 with only 2 touchdowns. He gets Kyler Murray, who, I mean, just look at how the players in the Cardinals offense performed with him versus Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
And Jacoby Brissett isn't good. I mean, that's how bad Kyler Murray is for his weapons. DeAndre Hopkins, one season in 2020, is the only legit receiver season he's ever supported.
And that's DeAndre Hopkins, who you could throw the ball anywhere in his general vicinity, and he was catching it at that time. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins was a demon for at least 6 years straight. So I didn't know his ADP was that high. I mean, that makes more sense. I don't know if he's the wide receiver 6 because there's so much uncertainty in that offense. I hope Kyler Murray gets it figured out, man, because I'm pretty sure it's his job to lose. So it's just Justin Jefferson's one of my favorite players in the NFL.
Yeah, so then to add on, though, 9 is the other option, and he's the only quarterback we've ever seen that's been able to handicap Justin Jefferson. I mean, that's a feat. Yeah. Last year, he was 27th in first downs per outrun, 21st in yards per outrun, 28th in fantasy points per game, 35th in fantasy points per outrun, and 63rd in catchable target rate. So once again, not a talent thing with him. I just think his quarterbacks are horrible.
So, Justin, speaking about another Justin, I mean, obviously, in my opinion, the greatest wide receiver I've ever seen on a football field, in my opinion, ever.
My man has never seen Randy Moss on film. You've never seen Randy Moss play football?
I've seen Randy Moss play football. I've watched his all 22. I think he was way too one-dimensional to be – I mean, he was just a super freak that could run straight and catch the ball. He had great hands, great speed. And the game wasn't really adjusted to what he could do. And now you have guys like Alec Pierce, who I know this is going to sound crazy, faster and crazier in terms of speed as a just straight vertical threat. Obviously doesn't have the just catching ability and one-to-one, press coverage. But I think Justin Jefferson, in terms of skill set, all around skill set, I think he's the greatest wide receiver I've ever seen.
I got to say, on July 29th, 2026, I did not expect Alec Pierce to be compared to Randy Moss. So I got to give you that.
Ridiculous.
He's also said that the Arizona Cardinals are going to win the NFC West, and I really hope that happens.
That was a hot take. I wanted to do the hottest of hot takes.
It was.
I think the Rams are being super
habanero hot, baby.
What are you supposed to do, Bobby? What are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to Jefferson, like you'd said, we don't know the quarterback situation. Now, I've seen Kyler Murray. We've all seen him Heisman Trophy winner, #1 overall pick, not tall enough to get on some roller coasters, but that doesn't mean he can't be a great quarterback. You know what I mean? However, Kyler Murray's deep ball accuracy kind of hurts him. He ranked 39th out of 42 qualifying quarterbacks last year with 20-plus yards downfield, and that's kind of not everything you have to do with Justin Jefferson, but it kind of helps. He's an elite wide receiver, like you said. And I think Minnesota's game plan is going to change a little bit because they're not fully certain what they have a quarterback. With Kyler Murray, you do a little bit more RPO, so that's going to, I think, reduce the downfield attempts. Last year, Jefferson had 68 grabs. 68 grabs. Got over 1,000 yards, only 2 touchdowns, right?
Yep.
Of course, last year, their quarterbacks were in psychosis mode. There was injuries. J.J. McCarthy, who I thought was a bust, an absolute fraud at Michigan. The undefeated Michigan team was an absolute fraud. We're not
never hear the ball.
Right, because he couldn't throw the ball.
Merchant.
He's
crossing route merchant. Yeah.
His best game was against the Bears. That was his best game last year, which doesn't surprise me because that secondary has gotten weaker. But I think Justin Jefferson isn't going to be as high even as he was last year. We're going to see there's probably a lot of excitement in Minnesota now that they've got an option here with Kyler Murray. But we got to see what he can do. He's so inconsistent. It's frustrating to try and navigate what you're going to do with your fantasy picks, what your ceiling is for Justin Jefferson. I think it's another down season. In fact, I'm going to call for Jefferson to not get 1,000 yards receiving next year.
That would be crazy. I think the team's going to definitely do what they did last year. And if he's not close to 1,000 yards, they're just going to force feed him the ball until he gets it.
I'm just saying he's not the wide receiver 6. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, for sure. I'm pretty
sure. He might not even be wide receiver 10.
That wouldn't shock me either.
My man. That's what's up.
Well, here's one that I don't know where Jaden Daniels is at on ADP, but I haven't been a believer in Jaden Daniels ever. Even when his rookie season came out and he was the QB 6 or 7, he's not a guy that and you know how I feel about Cliff Kingsbury and that offense that he runs. Everybody gets figured out after a season. Jaden Daniels last year when he played had a lot more struggles than he did during his rookie season. There's tape on him. Obviously fast, dynamic, dual threat quarterback. I just don't think he's as big enough as he needs to be. Obviously he had the crazy bad elbow dislocation last year. You can tell me where he's at on the ADP, but Jaden Daniels just seems like an easy fade for me. I don't like the Commanders' offense really that much. It's kind of really toned down since his rookie year. So I am definitely staying away from pretty much everyone in the Commanders' offense that's not Terry McLaurin. And even last year, Terry McLaurin disappointed a lot of people. So Jaden Daniels, surefire fade for me.
So are you saying that a team that was really good regressed quite a bit the next year? A team that got in there and went on a playoff run, and then the next year they kind of just absolutely fell apart? I mean, it happens. It's hard to sustain greatness. It's hard to sustain it. I got a quick Jaden Daniels story.
For the Packers.
We're not talking about Green Bay right now. Green Bay didn't have an NFC Championship run, but I will say this:
they also didn't have a playoff win this past season.
I was in an online Madden league with a bunch of people that were Lions fans. Okay, and I said in November of that year, when the Lions went 15-1 or whatever it was, I said, just wait till somebody like Jaden Daniels and the Commanders roll into Ford Field. I swear to God, I've got the screenshots to prove it, and pull the upset. And not only did they pull up the upset,
they smacked him in the face.
Ben Johnson was having tight ends throw behind the back passes to people down the field late in the game. That's how I know that's clown college. So we're, like, it was just a wonderful thing. And I wasn't super high on Jane Daniels. He started his career out here at ASU, and he didn't exactly leave on the best of terms. Goes to LSU, which I did say I have a theory on quarterbacks. If you check my channel, I've talked about. I don't know if I've talked about this on my channel, but if you downgrade schools when you're transferring in college, I think less of you as a player as opposed to if you upgrade. Like Malik Willis went from Auburn to Liberty. Right, I wasn't a big fan of that, but Jaden Daniels went from ASU to LSU and beat Alabama. LSU never had the defense to carry that team, but showed. And there's a lot in there as far as why you're going to kind of fade him. He had the injury issues. He's got a smaller frame. So it's more. He's more focused on being a running quarterback, and with a smaller frame, you just don't know. Plus his mama hovering around, but they ain't got nothing to do with his production, but. You just there's better options out there. You're really going to have to go with the rushing upside if you want him as your quarterback. Like you said, with the Kingsbury offense, it's really hit or miss because he runs like a jumbled air raid. It's so strange. There was a graphic that went up of how many times Kyler Murray just did play action roll left, like nonstop. So he can be kind of predictable. I didn't know what the big deal was when they hired him. He wasn't great in college as a coach. I think there's absolute regression here, but there's just something screwy. Just like look at the photo of him. Like I was that size in first grade. Like you just need to develop, bro. You need to eat some protein, lift some weights, and get a girlfriend. That's my fantasy.
Obviously, Cliff Kingsbury did get basically the axe last year, and they got David Blau. Want to say former quarterback. Want to say Lion. He was like a Viking and a Lion. I don't know how much that changes the scheme because he was already with the Commanders since 2024 as the quarterback's coach. Do you know off the top what his ADP is looking like? And that will give me a lot more info. But I think just at his price, he's probably like the QB 8 or something. I'm staying so far away.
Yeah, okay. So a couple of things. He's going off as the QB 4 generally. So I think he's in a void there personally, but I could see him being QB4. I think that's reasonable enough, but I would be fading him, so I kind of agree there. So they have David Blau now. So I think they're going to be doing a lot more shotgun offense. Now, I think this is going to be good for Terry McLaurin. And Blau himself has said that he wants to get McLaurin 10 targets a game. That's something I like to hear, and it makes sense given how terrible the situation is. I'd say the upside case for Jaden Daniels is because I think he can give you 800 yards and maybe 8 touchdowns on the ground on a good high, upside year, right?
Yeah.
So I think he could end up being the QB4 or even the QB1 maybe, but I wouldn't pay QB4 prices though in ADP. I'm good.
Fun fact about David Blau. All right. His claim to fame, do you guys know what it is? He went to Purdue.
Yep.
Mhm.
So if you recall, when Urban Meyer and Ohio State rolled into West Lafayette, and David Blau and Rondale Moore absolutely decimated that Ohio State team and knocked them out of the playoffs that year. Chef's kiss.
I'm going to be honest.
Rondale Moore by 4 touchdowns. It was great.
Rondale Moore this year genuinely messed me up for like a week. Shout out Rondale Moore, Purdue GOAT, RIP. But let's go to this Commanders team. It's just Harry McLaurin, Treylon Burks, who former dude, Treylon Burks actually played some solid football in his very limited time. I want to say he ended up getting signed to a deal as well. Antonio Williams, I know me and the strategists are big on Antonio Williams, just a guy that just does everything right. Just didn't have any production at all in college. But outside of that, I mean, there's nothing there. I mean, Chig Okonkwo has been kind of like mid at the tight end position. So I don't know how this team is going to end up looking in terms of
White.
Yeah, Rashad White as well, and then JCM, who I do like somewhat. I think his ADP is probably going to be pretty good in terms of value. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next guy who, out of all of your picks, Justin, I think James Cook is the one that I agree with the most. Because
would you rather have him or Achane? Would you rather have him or Achane this year?
I think I'd much rather have Achane just because James Cook's usage is now obviously James Cook is just so good at getting the maximum amount of yardage every play, and he has all of the stuff like the speed, the overall contact balance. He just has everything. He just had so many touchdowns last year, and I don't bet on touchdowns like that. I'm sure
What
James
if it's a non-PPR? What if it's no PPR?
I just don't know what the usage is going to look like again this year, since Josh Allen doesn't have to rely on the run as much because he actually finally has a receiver that's not Khalil Shakir. You know, I just don't know what the rushing attack's going to look like for the Buffalo Bills. I need to look at their running back room, make sure that they didn't add anybody.
It's going to look good for Cook.
It's the same as last year.
Yeah,
So they've got James
good.
Cook, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, and then they picked up Frank Gore Jr., who suited up for one game and was a healthy scratch. Yeah, I mean, I stay away from guys. I'm pretty sure his ADP is probably RB4 or 5 or something like that. At that price, I'm staying away because we've seen him in the past just get like 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns a year, and then all of a sudden last year he had like 15 or something crazy like that.
He goes one after Achane.
Okay, so I'm probably picking Achane over him. I think I'd rather have him just because I know that Achane's still going to be reliable and get all of the touches. I think James Cook also gets touches, but I'm just not going to bet on him getting so many touchdowns because we've seen James Cook just be like the RB 16 or 17 with a decent amount of touches.
I will say this, though. You segued so fast into James Cook. I will say that Rachaad White, I think, is a good pickup for the Commanders. I think that he's got that nice big size. He's good on the goal line, and he's shown that he can catch the football. And he's good at pass pro. He's not an elite running back by any measure. Good handcuff to have. I think that he can get split carries right down the middle in there for Washington, for the Commies. But we're talking about James Cook and the Buffalo Bills. 309 carries, 16,000 yards, or 16,000, Lord have mercy. 1,621 yards, 5 yards a carry, 12 rushing touchdowns, 33 grabs for 291, 2 tutties there. So he had 14 total touchdowns last year. Career highs across the board, led the NFL, top 6 RB. So I think that what likely happens here is obviously my favorite word, regression, especially when you're going to see, I think defenses are going to adjust to this. They're going to start making Josh Allen throw the football. Fantasy or the receiving role is kind of not really a big factor here for him. So if James Cook ain't running the ball, he's not scoring fantasy points. It's just as simple as can be. And when you get down to the goal line, Josh Allen will run the ball in. So it just seemed like last year was an anomaly. He had a great season. I'm not going to praise, Georgia players too much, but he did have the great season. He was the best running back last year. So if you lead the league in rushing, you're doing something right. He did fumble a little bit, but 1,600 yards again, 14 touchdowns. More realistic, probably RB10. I could just think of better players off the board. They don't throw him the ball. Josh Allen's what's the word? Vulture down there. Is that the word?
Yep.
So
Yep,
I just think that
he's had 18 and 14 touchdowns the last 2 years. Just saying.
So I was about to say that because I was like, this is the one I most agree with you with, and then I look, and the dude's just improved every single year. I do anticipate this being you remember in 2022 or something, 2021, I think Josh Jacobs led the league in rushing for the Raiders, and then he just kind of regressed a little bit. I think we're going to see something similar here, but the dude does have legitimately 32 touchdowns over the past 2 seasons, which is insane.
I think the touchdown upside is higher with him because the offensive environment is so much more conducive to scoring. Even if, Josh Allen's going to steal a bunch, but I just think they still score maybe twice as many touchdowns per game.
Well, hold on a second. Buffalo's got a new head coach in there, so we don't know exactly what they're going to be doing. Remember they fired 9/11 McDermott out of there, and
compared to the Dolphins, they could have the worst coach ever. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, for as far as we don't know what kind of scheme Buffalo's going to run. That's why it's really hard to kind of gauge him being RB1 again.
Maybe he'll start getting some pass game usage. If so, he has way more upside.
Dude, I am so cooked with the ball knowledge. I forgot completely.
He's already been a good receiver at the NFL level too. Like he did it before. He just wasn't used at all for whatever reason.
We're gonna see. We're gonna see. I mean, I've got no ill will towards the Buffalo Bills. I do towards those hideous gray alts. Christ Almighty, those are rotten. The helmets are atrocious.
Terrible.
Blue line, like it looks like
zoomed in on the logo, and then
it was terrible. It was terrible. It's one of the worst reveals I've ever seen for uniforms. And Lord, I have seen Tennessee orange, and this is almost as bad. Almost as bad. It's not that bad, but it's almost bad. It's like Auburn. Even Auburn's got better than what that gray uniform for the Bills are. I hope they only wear it once.
I don't think Auburn uniforms are that bad. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next guy who, honestly, me and the strategists have been just considerably year by year fading this guy. And this is the strategist's pick again this year. We agreed last year that he was definitely a guy to fade. And he ended up finishing right around where his ADP was last year in a year where CJ Stroud legitimately sucked. Stroud has sucked the past 2 seasons now. I don't think he gets any better, honestly, because the team is too good for him to be this bad. And yes, the line isn't where you want it to be, but I'm not going to talk about CJ Stroud. He's so mid, it's incredible. But Nico Collins has been a guy that's been able to succeed through that. It's just the soft tissue injuries for me. Strategist, I think that was the talking points last year, is that the offense sucked and he has durability issues. Is that kind of the same concerns going into this year, or is it something different?
Yeah, so he's going as a wide receiver 9 on Sleeper, wide receiver 8 on Yahoo, and wide receiver 10 on ESPN. Players like Pickens, Olave, A.J. Brown go behind him. Some guys that I think you could argue, I'd probably still take Nico over Olave, but regardless, he's never once played a full season. He's played 14, 10, 15, 12, and 15 in each year. He did manage a wide receiver 8 finish in a full PPR setting this past year, but in my opinion, like, you're essentially drafting him at his absolute ceiling, and I just don't like to do that. I mean, sure, I guess he could finally stay healthy, but he's never done it once. He gets Tank Dell back, which is added competition to go along, with Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll. I'm not the highest on Higgins. I think Knoll's pretty solid, though, but still a lot of options. And he still has to deal with CJ Stroud, where Nico had the 84th best catchable target rate and over 700 unrealized air yards this past season. To summarize, like Jetta's, the talent isn't the thing here with Nico. It's the added target comp with Dell coming back to go along with the receivers that they added, the quarterback play, and I think you're just taking him at his ceiling.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point that you bring up. He's wide receiver 8 to 10, depending on where you're drafting, what the ADP is. And that's his highest ever finish, right, is wide receiver 8. So, I mean, that's in a season. Honestly, the offense did struggle, but Tank Dell's a good shout, even though, I mean, he's looking good from the videos that I've seen on social media. He's quick. Obviously, that's just been his thing. He's a quick, twitchy route runner. And obviously, we love Jalen Knoll a lot in the slot. I thought he was going to be utilized a lot more. But, Justin, what are your overall thoughts on Nico Collins? Do you think he's a fade? I completely agree on I completely agree. The best ability is your availability. And, what are your thoughts on Nico Collins? And, just what are your thoughts on it?
I would not fade him. This was a surprise to see on the list. He's clearly...
Did he go to Bama or something?
No, he's a Michigan man. He's a Michigan man. I know you're making jokes there, but I'm pretty fair on Bama players, how I feel about them. Like, I was never big on Najee Harris, but we're not talking about that right now. Nico Collins is one of 4 wide receivers to average 2.5 yards per route in the last 2 seasons. He's only one of 6 wideouts with 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, so that puts him in a tier with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Everybody just seems to not dislike him because of the injuries, which makes sense. I can understand why, but it's really difficult for me to fade him. I like Jaden Higgins as wide receiver too. I don't think Tank Dell is worth a lick. He had his knee practically ripped off his body, and he's going to come back and arrive, and he's 50 pounds. I was never big on Tank Dell. I always thought he was. I don't think he's an NFL player. I think he should be playing for the Canadian Football League, which I do love, by the way, or he could be in the UFL. I think that if CJ Stroud, I have the Deshaun Watson argument for CJ Stroud.
It's going to turn into a. Never mind.
It's not your channel, pal. He's not going to be. You can do that on your channel, but you can't do that on this one. I think if he just plays and doesn't turn the ball over, I think that he's got him with Jaden Higgins and what the Texans, they improved their offensive line. So I think that there's opportunities here for them to go win the South again. The defense is so good, right? The defense, I think, is going to force turnovers and put these players in position. I think Nico might have himself 1,300 yards this year. I couldn't believe you faded him. I'm not saying you don't know
at
ball.
ADP.
But if that's what you're doing, then that's one thing. But I think he's one of the top 5 wide receivers in the league. It's really hard for me to say no.
It'd be great if he ever finished like one.
Well, like you said, it's the injuries that really have done it in. But he hasn't missed enough time to where you're going to want to fade him in a fantasy draft, right? He's there for a majority of the season. It's when you get those guys that are out for half the season and it cripples your team. He may miss some games here or there. I know I like the concerns about CJ Stroud. I wasn't big on him at Ohio State. But it just, there's a reason they took Bryce Young over CJ Stroud. Let's just be real. I just think that Collins is going to be a great top 5 finish is happening here. I think this is his best season.
I'm not betting on 100th percentile outcome.
Yeah, so for me, Nico Collins, he's a vertical X receiver, and I just stay that's why I don't draft guys like AJ Brown, Nico Collins, stuff like that. Just prototypical X wide receivers that a lot of their reps are going to be trying to take the top off the defense, and they just get swallowed up by the safeties. Pause. But anyways, that's just. I just stay away from those types of receivers. Nico Collins, super big, super explosive. But, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm fading Nico again this year, even though I was wrong last year. Well, I wasn't even really wrong last year. He just finished right where he was. Dude, look how big Breece Hall is. This is my next pick. This is my next pick for Breece Hall. Just talking about Breece Hall for a quick second. This team sucks, okay? Jets suck. And they're going to continue to suck for the foreseeable future. It is what it is. I'm sorry if you're a Jets fan. The team's going to suck. We still don't – we don't know who their quarterback – Geno Smith, who committed war crimes last year, is not a guy that I want to be having on my football team. Legitimately, throw Cade Klubnik out there, get him some reps, and just see what he can do. The offense should be better, but it's not going to be. Geno Smith, I do not expect to do anything. He's going to flame out. And unfortunately, that's going to affect Breece Hall in a lot of ways. I did a film breakdown last year on Breece Hall. He's just kind of zapped in terms of his explosiveness compared to what he was doing in college and early on in his NFL career. And I still feel that way this year as well, even though he did put up some, pretty solid performances. He had 243 carries, just notched 1,000 yards. He had pretty much a slightly worse season than Saquon, and Saquon had an objectively bad season compared to what he had, obviously the year before. Season lows in terms of his receiving ability as well. I think that's going to be even worse with Geno Smith. It's all about Geno Smith. I'm sorry, you see the Geno Smith memes. They're there for a reason. I'm fading Breece Hall because of Geno Smith and the atrocities he's going to commit for this New York Jets offense.
You got to think, though, they have 3 firsts in 2027. I think there's a ton of potential at the quarterback position. You figure if you insert, a reasonably competent rookie, and then they finally get rid of sleepy Aaron Glenn, just think about the potential if they get a Ben Johnson type in there with a legit rookie quarterback. They have a solid O-line. They have playmakers everywhere, man.
Yeah,
they have Geno Smith. That does suck.
Look, me and you were on Omar Cooper Jr. Really early on when he was, I think, on NFL draft, the NFL draft was, he was like projected to be like a 5th or 6th round pick. And we were like, nope, this guy's really good. And he ended up being a late 1st round pick. That, and obviously Garrett Wilson, who's one of the most talented, top 5 in terms of talents in the league. I think Garrett Wilson is. He led the team in receiving yards and played like 4 games, like something crazy like that. It's insane.
Mason Taylor, where were you?
Yeah, oh, dude. Shout out Mason Taylor. One of the worst things I've ever seen on film.
His run blocking. Holy moly. Dude.
The Jets got a culture problem.
The defense had a 12th man out there in the run against the run game when he was blocking in college.
It was one of the worst things we've ever seen was LSU Mason Taylor. And now they get Kenyon Sadiq, who also can't really run block, but he's pretty athletic. So Mason Taylor is going to be basically a waste of a 2nd round pick for the Jets. But let's get back to Breece Hall and not how bad the Jets is. Overall, Breece Hall, I think in terms of physicality, I think his contact balance is really good, but his burst isn't there. And I think you just need to get him a lot of touches for him to be anywhere fantasy relevant. And I think Braylon Allen's going to come back. I think Isaiah Davis can emerge as your 3rd down back to get you some pass catching out of the backfield, which he did last year anyways. I think this is just a clear fade. I don't think he reaches 1,000 yards again.
Well, like
I think
you
the
said,
touchdown upside is the biggest reason to avoid it.
There is the threat, of the committee back there, so that does make a lot of sense. And like you said, his pass catching role has gone down. It's gone down.
Yep.
Like you said as well, the efficiency's gone down, the explosiveness is gone. But the biggest thing I think with the Jets is their inability to get in the red zone and score points. It's funny because it's easy to dogpile Geno Smith, right? But when he was in Seattle, he led the NFC in passing multiple seasons. He goes to the worst offensive line in the history of football last year. And it wasn't just him that suffered. The entire offense suffered. Gene T looked like a man without a plan back there. They can't even get anything open. They're terribly coached. Like, a lot of stuff went bad for the Raiders last year, so I'm not going to hang that on a cross on him. This is a guy who I didn't think was an elite talent. There's a reason I think he didn't go in the 1st round when the Jets – or did go – was it 2nd round with the Jets? He
36th overall.
Yeah, Breece Hall was the early 2nd.
And, for him to humbly, go in the backup role and then earn the position back and show that he can competently run an NFL offense. And I saw parts of it a little bit when the Raiders had a couple plays, but my God, it's got to wait and see. I have to wait and see on it because I want to see what the Jets do. I don't like Aaron Glenn as a coach. I mean, I saw in his 1st season, I saw Garrett Wilson basically there was I can't remember what game it was. They were going into halftime. And Garrett Wilson was upset about the play call, but Aaron Glenn went to go put his arm around him, and he's like, "Get the hell off me," So it was kind of like, man, you're in your 1st season. The Jets were 0-6 at that point. It's not time for that.
Does Aaron Glenn make it to the trade deadline? I think there's no chance.
I hope so. They'll have a higher pick, and they'll have a better chance at getting a good quarterback if he's their coach.
An
interim coach, they could mess up, and go on a win streak or something. You don't want to do that.
Them interim coaches, man, be doing that. Yeah. You just bring in some random, we're going to do the offensive passing coordinator or whatever, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, he's 7-1. Let's fire this guy.
Get you some Arch next year.
That's because when you get interim coach in there, all the pressure's off, right? Then the coaches and the players aren't going to quit on the team. No matter what the GMs or the front office want, they're going to play for pride. They're still playing for their jobs. They're going to be on tape. They're going to see how they respond to a fired coach. There's a lot of human elements that go into that. But I do think Breece Hall is a mid-tier running back, but I do think that there's a chance that he can actually play well. It just depends on how serious Aaron Glenn is. It just felt like a wonky hire, and the Jets, I've never seen somebody just continue to not be able to tie their shoes after months and months of practice. It's just a wild situation up there in New York.
And just to add, he is the 5th highest paid running back now. He's not going to be in a committee. He's going to get a bunch of touches. They don't get paid top 5 money to not get touches.
That's fair. That's for sure fair. But if you look at Olu Fashanu, Dylan Parnham, Josh Myers, Joe Tripman, Armand Mimbu. I think Armand Mimbu is the only guy here that I'm a big fan of.
That's a solid line, man.
I don't know. You think it's solid?
Yeah.
Josh Myers is the most average center in the history of football to go to Ohio State.
I mean, they don't have all pros across the line, but I mean,
I think Mimbu's solid, but outside of that, I think it's just a bunch of like solid to like below solid, some quality, some not. Obviously Parham is decent, but I don't know, man. I genuinely, I know people were saying in the chat, Geno isn't all that bad. Geno,
he's not the worst. And like I said, I go back to offensive line.
Worst thing I've ever seen. I saw his last year in Seattle. He made me want to throw up. You saw what Seattle did for Sam Darnold last year. I'm telling you guys, not to hate on Sam Darnold, but Sam Darnold was definitely elevated by a significant amount. And Geno had the same thing happen to him, and he was still mid. They only won 9 games. They got him out of there. They replaced him with a bust in Sam Darnold, and all of a sudden, look what happens.
But
you know what I mean? They win the Super Bowl.
But Geno's last year, he led the NFC in passing.
And he almost had as many interceptions as he did touchdowns.
I'm just saying you got to look at both sides of the coin. I know it's easy to dogpile. I'm not a Geno Smith guy. He looks like Diddy. If you really look at his face, he looks like Diddy. Pull it up, Jamie. Pull up a picture of Geno Smith and pull up a picture of Diddy and tell me that they don't look alike.
Have you ever seen Geno and Diddy in the same room? Let's see. Oh no.
It's true.
I can't show that on the. I can't show that. I can't show that. I'm not going to show that. They look alike. They do look alike. Don't Google that. Don't Google that.
Look alike, but those two look alike.
We're going to move on to the next. We're going to move on to the next one. This is one that multiple people here chose, but for the sake of the show, we just let Justin have this one. Jonathan Taylor, a guy who a lot of people were fading last year. Yes, he fell off a cliff towards the end of the season, but man, that first half of the season was electric. Still had a great year. Finished, I want to say, as a top 5 back, right? So, what did he end up finishing? Led the league with 18 touchdowns, almost 1,600 yards.
Yep. 18 rushing touchdowns. 18 rushing touchdowns is big. 46 grabs, almost 400 yards receiving, 2 receiving touchdowns, 20 total touchdowns on the season. That's elite stuff.
Yeah.
He was RB1 if you do the PPR for the first 13 weeks, like you said. He was absolutely smoking it. And then he dropped significantly after Daniel Jones was gone. So I think that might have been what happened here. But with those heavy, heavy touchdown totals, it's unlikely that any running back does that kind of stuff on a consistent basis. I mean, it's very rare. We see it with guys like Adrian Peterson. But it's, again, I like Jonathan Taylor as a football player. I think he's one of the best. The early season dominance, though, was absolutely fueled by a favorable offensive environment.
Yeah.
And multiple scoring opportunities that kind of went back to the regress to the mean later in the season. The Colts offense is more average. And if the QB play is inconsistent, the season-long rankings are going to come down. He could still be, a high-end RB1 for your football team. But to stay on that historic pace, that's why the show is called 15 Players I'm Fading. Doesn't mean that, I think that he's a bad player. When you look at the production from last year to this year, he's a strong candidate to do so.
Yeah, for sure. With Jonathan Taylor, you mentioned Adrian Peterson. I think Jonathan Taylor is like our generation's Adrian Peterson. He's not as durable as Adrian Peterson was, even though obviously the ACL tears, But he played way late into his career. He had, I think, 1,000-yard season with the Commanders at age 35 or something crazy like that. Super durable outside of the ACL tears. Jonathan Taylor's had some more durability issues than Adrian Peterson has, but man, he is that level of talent. He's got the size, speed. He can make people miss. He can run through. He's got all of the qualities. And we just have to see what Daniel Jones looks like off that Achilles tear. You were absolutely right. Once Daniel Jones got out of there, Jonathan Taylor, they knew what they were going to do. They couldn't, do anything with Riley Leonard out there. And obviously Anthony Richardson had to, blow out his own face with a stretch band, so it was just Riley Leonard, and they just knew, well, they're just going to run the ball, so they loaded the box. So
there's something in the water in Florida that just makes you goofy. I don't know what it is. Swear to God, man.
It's just
the Colts were a wagon. The Colts were a wagon when Jones was in there. It was unbelievably fun to watch. Like it just was. I couldn't believe it. He just went out there.
Well, they do lose their center, Kelly, I think his name is. That's a big loss. Former All-Pro center. I'm pretty sure Ryan Kelly, Jonathan Taylor. I think it just depends on how Daniel Jones recovers from that Achilles. Obviously, last year when they were that wagon, Daniel Jones was running all over the field on the bootlegs and stuff like that, playing off play action a lot. I just don't know how he's going to recover. We saw Kirk Cousins not really be able to do that when he tore his Achilles. He wasn't able to move very well. So I love their offense. Tyler Warren, me and the strategist love a lot. Josh Downs, me and him love a lot. Alec Pierce, not so much. Shout out Laquan Treadwell.
What? He shout out an Ole Miss player? What are you doing?
Shout out Laquan Treadwell. What a GOAT for still making an NFL roster. He hasn't really done too much compared to, I want to say he was a first-round pick. Hasn't really done much, but shout out for him still being on a roster. But Jonathan Taylor's the workhorse in this offense. We're just betting on him not scoring as many touchdowns, but I think he absolutely gets the carries, and barring injury, I think he can play what's his ADP? Probably RB4, 3, something like that. I don't know. At that price, I think that's fine for value. I don't know if I'm fading Jonathan Taylor just because the talent's so crazy. What do you think, strategist, about some Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, so he's generally going around the RB4. That's a huge fade for me. So one of the reasons being is that through 2024, at least, from 2010 through 2024, running backs with 400 or more touches in a season on average played 12.7 games per season the year following that massive season. Essentially, as of really recently, Derrick Henry is the only guy that's been able to do it year over year. McCaffrey is hurt every other year practically up until very recently. Saquon Barkley, to be fair, had a lot of regression. Joe Mixon didn't do it. Ezekiel Elliott didn't do it. Le'Veon Bell didn't do it. Essentially, you're betting against history. He's very likely to see a lot of regression and probably miss some games unless you want to bet against a lot of history. So I'm good.
Fair enough. We're going to move on to your player here, which obviously I think there's no doubt that everybody on the show loves Jeremiah Love. I'm pretty sure all of us had him as the RB1 in the draft class. He was really, really good at Notre Dame, but I'm going to let you talk a little bit more about this strategist in terms of what the ADP is. It's a little crazy. Love the player. We were talking about this before we came on the call with the RB room. Just tell me your thoughts on Jeremiah Love. I completely agree with you on this one.
Yeah, so he's going off the clock or off the board as the running back, 11 on Sleeper, 13 on Yahoo, and 10 on ESPN. I'm more okay with the running back 13 range on Yahoo. I think that's reasonable. I think once you get up into the top 12, I just think it's a bad bet. So he has Algier and probably James Conner as well as legitimate threats to steal touchdowns regularly. We've seen it happen in Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs. And even players like, Gibbs and Bijan weren't top-end elite RB1s in the rookie seasons either, even if they've been awesome. I really think we're going to see a similar thing to what's happened. And I think we're going to see something. It's kind of going to be more like Gibbs in terms of his play style and kind of a lot of big runs and a lot of receiving game usage and efficiency there to help boost him. But on Sleeper, for instance, running backs like Chase Brown and Derrick Henry go behind him, and I personally like them more for redraft. On Yahoo, I really don't have any issue as Kyron Williams and Josh Jacobs go below him, and you can make cases for some of those other guys, but I'd probably take Love. But on ESPN, Genty, Hampton, Henry, and Chase Brown all go below him, and I think I would rather have every one of those guys over Jeremiah Love for redraft purposes.
Crazy.
So to conclude, it's once again, just like with all these guys, not an issue of talent. I just think the potential touchdown sniping from Algier and Connor, as well as players that I like to produce more than him this season going later than him, makes him a bad pick in ESPN and Sleeper. But I think on Yahoo, he's a pretty reasonable price.
Yeah, there's no shot. There's no world where I'm drafting Jeremiah Love over Ashton Genty. I mean, that's just never going to happen. I mean, I like Jeremiah Love, but he's in not the best offensive system. I think the Raiders are going to get better in terms of how they utilize him. They tried to build up the trenches a little bit. Genty, I did my breakdown on him just about a few weeks ago. Much in terms of prospect too, Genty is a better prospect than Love, in my opinion. So I think
got hate for that.
Huh?
I got hate for that same take.
That Genty's a better player than Love.
Yeah, they're great though. I mean, they're both awesome.
Yeah, they are great. They're both great, but I mean, we forget Genty had basically a better year almost than Bijan in his rookie year. You know, they're about the same player. You know, so I think Genty
like 2,500 rushing yards almost.
Yeah, there's no shot. I'm picking Love over Genty, considering we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. If it's going to be Brissett, I don't know how I feel about that because he had, a miracle run last year for the last 8 games or however long. He did play great last year, but I don't expect him to consistently do that. Now that he's got his bag, I'm definitely drafting Genty over Love. No problem. I don't know about Hampton. We didn't see enough of him outside of one breakout game. So, Justin, any thoughts on Jeremiah Love before we move on? Thoughts on him over Genty? That seems a little crazy to me.
Crazy.
It's really tough to gauge how rookies are going to do, especially at this position. You don't know how. It's easy to just do for fantasy and just try and project how many yards and touchdowns and receptions and stuff. But running backs don't play if they don't know how to pass pro. And this is a situation where the running back room is absolutely stacked. I mean, nobody talked about Trey Benson, but he still was higher draft capital than people want to believe. I don't know if he's a top 15 running back this year. There's a lot of explosiveness. He was great at Notre Dame. But we don't know what LaFleur's offense is going to look like down here. It could be something special to where it's RB friendly and he gets himself 60 grabs. But the coaches down here were saying that it's likely going to be him and Algier doing most of the carries. I think James Conner's going to be getting faded out. It's the last year of his deal. I mean, I can't believe he's been in the league as long as he is. You made the joke about Laquan Treadwell making it this long. I'm kind of surprised James Conner has done it this long.
He beat cancer.
Well, yes, and good for him for beating cancer, but
he also had a 1,000-yard year with like 10 touchdowns like 3 years ago. So he's been relevant before.
It's just with Treadwell, I always think of a player that I thought had super talent but missed tremendously on was Laviska Shenault. I thought that dude was going to be an absolute steal. No, he had good college production. There was a lot going on there. I thought that was going to be a good player, but I also had high hopes for Treylon Burks. I thought he was wide receiver 1. I wanted the Packers to draft him, but we're talking about Jeremiah Love. And the Packers never draft anybody I want them to draft. They never do it. I wanted them to get Darnell Washington. They didn't do it. They passed on him. But Jeremiah Love, I think the Cardinals have, like Bobby and I have talked about, there's a lot of good players on this roster.
Yep.
The coach, I thought last year was just, now he's running the Packers defense and he's got sideways eyes and screwed up hair and has all these weird demeanor about him. Not NFL head coach demeanor. I think LaFleur is a lot more serious. He's going into one of the toughest divisions with the Rams and the 49ers in it and the Seahawks who are, Super Bowl champs. So there's a big uphill battle, but there's also no expectation with the Cardinals. So you don't know how sleeves are going to roll up. This might be a team that tries some trick plays because they just ain't got it going on. Might be picking – I think they're a year away, as crazy as this sounds. I think they're a year away because we just don't know the quarterback situation here. They did spend good capital on draft to draft Carson Beck, who I have high comments about, or I do like as a player, but he's third on the depth chart behind Gardner Minshew and now with Brissett. So with the Cardinals offense, I'm fading pretty much everybody on the Arizona Cardinals fantasy relevancy.
Before we move on, just a quick shout about the Bijan Rob and Ashton Genty thing. Ashton Genty had 1 less rushing yard in his rookie season, 1 more touchdown. He had 2 more touchdowns than Bijan in his rookie season. Ashton Genty had about 150 all-purpose yards less. So very similar seasons. That's interesting.
Look at their situations. Bijan was in a way better situation.
Way better, for sure.
I mean, not even close.
I mean, Geno Smith wasn't even close to Atlanta at that time. So, anyways, we're going to go to the next guy who I don't know if any of you guys really mentioned him as a big-time fade. Judkins, for me, is probably one of the easiest fades just because the offense isn't going to be as good. And honestly, Judkins, in terms of efficiency, was just not something that I liked last year. He had a couple games right off the rip where he was, fine. But, before his injury, he was only averaging like 3.6 yards per carry, which is not good whatsoever. And they fed him the ball a lot, 230 carries, and basically 0 receiving upside. I'm not a big fan of Judkins. Don't like the early draft capital that they had. I know me and strategists weren't as big on Judkins as consensus. I'm staying away from Judkins. I don't know exactly what the ADP is here. I don't know what his current status is injury-wise. I know he had a big-time injury. I don't know if he starts the year fresh, ready to go. But, yeah, in terms of the efficiency, then the major injury, I'm staying far, far away from Quinshon Judkins.
Bobby, are you the type of fan that holds a grudge on where these players go to college when they go to the NFL?
No. I will say what he did at Ole Miss was really good, but he
leaving?
He apparently was a nightmare to deal with. I've got some people that are really, really close to the Ole Miss organization in terms of the athletics program, and Judkins was an absolute nightmare and tried to – I'm not going to say all the stuff because I don't think any of that needs to really be aired. But he was not easy to deal with, hence why he left and went to Ohio State. I don't know. I think I think he's worse David Montgomery. I think that's what he is. And
the Frankenback? Remember they had that graphic of David Montgomery as the ultimate running back when he was at Iowa State? But I'm going to say this about Judkins. I think that he's going to split the backfield with Dylan Sampson, who had some ability, but I mean, like not like a 60-40. But I think that you're going to see that, like you said, the endurance ain't there. I like him as a running back, but I don't think that he's got a high ADP. But the Browns, again, this is a super, super talented defense, and they might have some fresh blood in there with their new coach. I think Shedeur Sanders might end up winning this job.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane what you just said.
I mean, I don't know if that's good or bad.
It's not because like I want it to happen. I just think that what are you doing with that team? Are you going to tank it again and then get yourself a quarterback in the upcoming draft? I mean, the Browns do draft really smart. Make no mistake, they don't whiff on these draft picks the last few seasons. They've really been drafting elite football players, very good football players. And he's not the worst pick of the bunch. He's not the worst. I mean,
no, for sure he's not. Carson Schlesinger was a great pick at linebacker. Judkins.
They drafted Mason Graham.
Mason Graham is a great pick too, for sure.
Yeah, good, smart defensive players, and I think that the Browns are going to be more of a running team. So, I think that he's a good flex player, depending on the matchups. I don't think the Browns' record is an accurate portrayal of what that football team was last year. I mean, they had Joe Flacco. They had quarterback carousel. They put Dylan Gabriel, who I didn't like as a prospect, one bit in there. And we're hesitant to put Shedeur Sanders in there for whatever reason. I'm pretty sure it's his media approach, and the Browns aren't very fond of that. Jimmy Haslam's kind of had enough with the Deshaun Watson situation. He doesn't want to have any more egg on his face with Shedeur Sanders being absolutely going to be a media frenzy there. I don't think that he's the worst running back out there, like you said, with the yards per carry and stuff like that. He got a high volume thing, but I can see why he's faded this year for sure.
Yeah, look, you said Dylan Sampson. I think Dylan Sampson is just like, I think he's explosive, but he cannot break tackles. I do think Deshaun Watson wins this job pretty handedly. You saw what Shedeur Sanders did last year. He was pretty horrible, all things considered. Plus, you have all the media stuff that you have to deal with. Honestly, I think media-wise, Watson's the way better play, which is shocking to say that compared to Shedeur Sanders. But yeah, I'm gonna say Watson wins this job. He's got a great group of wide receivers with Concepcion, Boston, Harold Fannin, Jerry Jeudy too. Malachi Corley, who I liked a decent amount. I think they're going to be more of a pass-heavy, kind of quick throw type of team, and I think Judkins I don't think he's fully recovered from the injury, and his efficiency was bad even then. So I'm saying far, far away from Quinshon Judkins. Strategist, do you want to speak on this a little bit? Where his ADP is and just overall what you think about Judkins this year?
Yeah, I mean, so he's typically going off, give or take, around the likes of Etienne, Bucky, Henderson, Swift, Monty, Jadarian Price, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get more of the same with him, where you're going to get a lot of high-volume games. You're going to have a lot of low-efficiency games. You'll have a couple big boom games here and there against either poor run defenses or if he happens to get a couple short yardage touchdowns. But I think, as soon as next year, he could have a really high ceiling if they get a quarterback. But until that happens, and as long as they improve their offensive line as well, which is a tall task, and it's the Browns. So
Yeah, for sure. We'll go ahead and move on. Trey McBride is not a name.
this is crazy.
This is not a name I was thinking to see on here at all. I only have great things to say about Trey McBride.
I love you, Trey.
Yeah, shout out Trey McBride. He's been amazing over the past 2 years. I mean, over 100 grabs in the past 2 seasons, over 1,000 yards the past 2 years. What are your thoughts on having Trey McBride? Is it just because you don't bet on him being like a top 2 tight end again? I mean, obviously he's the tight end 1 ADP wise, but what are your thoughts overall?
He's still going to be a top tier tight end. All right, this is regression based more off coming on an outlier peak than necessarily falling off a cliff. 126 grabs. How many tight ends really get that high? 1,239 yards, 11 touchdowns. Heavy volume, right? Big time volume. Led all tight ends. Tight end 1. Higher pass rate, with, like you said, with Jacoby Brissett going absolutely crazy. But the TD rates are one of the things in fantasy that's really kind of crazy. 11 scores is a lot. 11 touchdowns is a lot for a
Didn't
tight
have
end.
Kyler finally. Thank God.
It was such a heavy target and route volume, and it was way more than any other tight end in the National Football League. And we're going to see a team that's not going to be just doing what the Cardinals did last year offensively, but it felt like they were just slinging the football, right? So I think that he's going to regress more to like 6 to 8 touchdown range as far as staying that high. And I see there's going to be enough of a drop off to where it's not saying don't draft Trey McBride. It's just don't draft him as high as what his 2025 numbers. I don't think that's sustainable for anybody unless your name was Prime Travis Kelce. Like, it's really hard to sustain that. Again, for me, it's always about you can do it once, but can you do it again? That's my argument for sports in general. You can climb the mountain, but can you stay on the mountain? And generally, most of the time, you can't. And I don't think that's the case here. I think that he can. I don't even know if he gets 100 grabs this year. We're just going to see what LaFleur does.
Well, he has had 100 grabs, way over 100 grabs the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I love me some Trey McBride. I think he's phenomenal. I would do a film breakdown on him, but nobody wants to see tight end breakdowns, especially Trey McBride, because everybody knows he's good already. So love his film, love what he does. He's got Jacoby Brissett, who is just super glued to him in terms of just throwing him the ball. So I'm staying with Trey McBride. Obviously, in redraft, I'm not really going to be drafting a tight end so high. Even in dynasty startups, I'm not going to be drafting a tight end that high unless I can get some value. But if you have Trey McBride on your team, you should be very happy, I think. What are your thoughts, strategies on Trey McBride? I mean, we're fanboys of him for sure.
Yeah, so I actually agree with what Justin said to a large degree. I don't think it's any mistake, though, that immediately, as soon as Kyler Murray was done hindering him, he immediately exploded. I mean, it's not a coincidence. It's because he finally isn't being hindered by a 5'10" quarterback. But So yeah, but I do think that you probably don't see peak production like you saw at the back end. Brissett was averaging something like 40 something attempts a game. It's probably going to be in the high 30s, which doesn't sound like a large difference, but extrapolated over the course of a season, that actually is a lot of difference in volume. So I agree with what he was saying. I think it's just a bad bet to draft tight end early. Your team build doesn't look that good with it. And then I would rather take like a Loveland later, or even preferably even later than that, a Warren.
Yeah. I love me some Warren, and I love Loveland. Both of those guys are phenomenal. But we'll move on to this is one of the first guys I thought of whenever, and obviously strategists picked him for a good reason. Cam Scadaboo obviously had some good games last year, a good bit of touchdowns. He scored 3 touchdowns versus the Chiefs. A lot of receiving as well. Obviously, the team is going to be pretty solid, I think, in terms of just how much talent they have, but they still just can't win games. The injury is obviously an issue, and he's just so physical. I don't think he holds up for a season. Is that basically your thought process? Is just the physicality of his play is going to hinder him?
Yeah, so a couple things. So he's going as running back, 22 on Sleeper, 19 on Yahoo, and 18 on ESPN. Now, that might not sound very high, but just wait a second until I tell you who's going after him. So he's coming off an ankle fracture, a dislocation, and deltoid ligament tear. I think it's pretty reasonable to be somewhat cautious about how he'll come back in terms of looking good right away, durability, given how recklessly and physically he plays. While it is coach speak, there were 2 separate reports in the past 2 days that he and Tracy will be in a split this season, and neither one of them has a draft capital or contract to really say, hey, you're paying me, right? So then I don't think the offense is going to be amazing this year, especially in the beginning, as Neighbors probably isn't going to be Malik Neighbors, in my opinion, right away. Maybe he surprises me, and I'd be ecstatic if he did. But running backs you can get after Scadaboo. On Sleeper, Judkins and Price go behind him, and I personally like them better, but I could understand arguments for or against. On Yahoo, Judkins, Bucky, Henderson, and Jadarian Price go below him. On ESPN, ETN, Bucky, Judkins, Hendo, and Price all go below him. So just to summarize, injury risk, coming back from a nasty injury, potentially in some kind of split. He doesn't have the draft capital or contract to help secure him. And there's just better players, in my opinion, going after him.
I would say that I think a lot of people just like his aggressive, no-nonsense, lower the head style and run aggressively and be goofy. And people tend to overdraft players that they like their personalities. It's a proven time and time again. They don't think when it comes to these situations. It's like betting. When you bet on your favorite team and you make these parlays because you believe in your players so much. I think he's kind of a throwback, but when he was down here at ASU, he's headbutting brick walls and doing all kinds of he's like Rob Gronkowski on steroids when it comes to just being silly. And people like that. And he's not scared of contact, which is kind of refreshing in this game. I mean, the NFL that you guys have watched compared to what I've watched when I was in the 90s and 80s was just violence, which is what the game should be. It used to be a blood sport. Now it's all about personal fouls. You know, it's funny because I watched the CFL and there's not a lot of flags in the CFL for certain things that you would see in the NFL, you know, and there's just way too much emphasis on putting bubble wrap on players, but he is not a bubble wrap player. I don't think that he's an elite fantasy running back, but I do like to watch him run the football and try to, go toe-to-toe on you. And the other day, it's funny, you mentioned all those injuries. He was doing a WWE event up there. I think he was at Madison Square Garden for Saturday night's main event. He's back there doing backflips and stuff like that. And
he almost didn't land it.
But he did. He landed it.
Him all off season. There was just another one the other day.
Yeah.
So I think there might be a testament in a way to his knees, testing it out. I mean, there's no way to gently land a backflip when you're his size or you're not jumping off a trampoline. I don't think anybody thinks Cam Scadaboo and thinks somebody that's fleet of foot and is going to be nimble. They think of more of like just run your ass over and make a play. He's really a pleasure to watch. But as far as fantasy, I'll punt.
Yeah, in my opinion, so I'll talk to 2 things because you were doing the on the porch thing. Get out of my yard, with the whole like people aren't doing like they're not as physical as they used to be. And I think, honestly, unfortunately, money is a lot of a bigger thing in terms of the factor of protecting the players. There's just so much more money invested into the players and just the overall sport now. Where
why don't they play on grass?
Dude, I tell that to the Giants.
Please,
dude,
someone.
I hate the Giants. Cheap owners. Cheap.
Yeah. Turf is just stupid, and I think you should. I mean, the World Cup obviously just proved that you can play on any stadium. In like every stadium can have grass, no problem. Yes. So I think with all these players, the grass doesn't really like that would help like the non-contact injuries and stuff like that. Shout out the Giants. But like in terms of his play style, I can think of one player over the past like 10 years
Marion Barber
that has his play style that has been a consistent fantasy asset, and that's Josh Jacobs. And that's because he's the same size, same sort of build, but he hasn't really been – he's more of a Raider than anything right now. But, yes, he is a Packer. Just his overall ability for Josh Jacobs, he was just able to avoid injury for so long. And I think that's just luck, because if you look at other guys, I did a film breakdown on him comparing the career paths of Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery, who's – had his entire career just kind of put on a pitch count because of his play style. Then you've got countless others that have that play style that lasts over, a couple of seasons, like Rashad Penny and stuff like that. Shout out.
Man, he was so good.
Yeah.
He was
He could have been the GOAT.
He was really good, but he just kept getting hurt. And honestly, if Cam Scadaboo keeps just running his head straight into linebackers, eventually he's going to get hurt or get a concussion. I think it's more so on Jackson Dart. That's my worry for him. But Scadaboo, to be fair, didn't really get hurt that much in college with all of the – it was just a freak injury that would have happened to anyone. So I'm not saying his injury last year has anything to do with his play style, because it didn't, but the physicality does worry the hell out of me. So that's a good fade.
One more thing. Tony Pollard had a similar injury, and it completely derailed his next season coming back in terms of his efficiency. Just an FYI.
Yeah. Shout out to the most mid running backs, like probably of all time, is Tony Pollard. But
he'll get you 40 yards in a meaningless game.
Yes, he will. So last but not least, I'm going to choose one of my Kansas City Chiefs, Rashee Rice. I'm going to be honest. I've never got the hype with this guy. He's had a few, like 3-4 game stretches before he got hurt that he looked amazing. But the offense, it hasn't been good in a few years now. The Chiefs offense just hasn't been that good. Mahomes is coming off a major knee injury, so we just need to see how he's going to look in terms of the mobility. We don't know if Mahomes is going to be able to just be a prototypical pocket passer. I don't know if
he made a good throw today. I saw on video. He looks amazingly like he looks like he's okay, but like you said, the mobility, we don't know. But Mahomes really doesn't run as much as he used to. That doesn't seem to be his game.
He was the QB4 before he got hurt this past season. He was looking good.
He's been good, and before he got hurt, he led the Chiefs in rushing. I just need to point that out there. He does run. He had like 5 rushing touchdowns last year too, which I think is like a career high for him. So he did run a lot, but he's just – I need to see – I mean, he's looking great in camp. I need to see it. He looked great in camp last year, and then had one of his – he kind of fell off a little bit towards the end of the season. I need to see this offense start clicking, because Xavier Worthy hasn't really done what he's thought in terms of him being a first-round pick. Well,
he's
he's fast. He's tiny,
dude.
But kind of is. I get the thing, right? You lose Tyreek Hill, you want to get the replacement for Tyreek Hill, so you draft a small, fast wide receiver, right? But there's a lot more to Tyreek Hill's game than speed, and people don't.
Yeah, he had 4 kids in 1 year. We can't match that kind of game.
Yes,
his ability to change direction while accelerating. Like,
Yep. Very
that's-
rare.
It's something Neighbors and Jamar Chase have too, but Tyreek Hill was like on a tier above everybody at that.
Yeah, and another thing, that's a big one that Delph just said. Worthy can't locate the ball, and that's the biggest thing because he plays small. Tyreek Hill does not play small. He is small, but he doesn't play small. He goes up and plucks that ball out of the air, and he does that all the time in traffic. He's not scared. But Worthy, he's just like, I am 5'9" and 160 pounds. If I go up, I will die. He saw the Tank Dell injury too many times, and he just doesn't want to go up and get it. I get it. But Rashee Rice, talking about him, just the efficiency. I need to see a consistent season out of him, and we haven't seen it. We saw his rookie year, which was decent. But outside of that, we haven't seen much of anything in terms of consistency outside of maybe, a 2 or 3 game stretch. I need to see more before I draft some Rashee Rice. Where's he going ADP wise?
Oh, he's going really high. So
I think a lot of people think that he's going to have a resurgence with Mahomes.
I hope so.
He goes above AJ Brown, Nico Collins, Pickens, Garrett Wilson, Olave, Devontae Smith, Ibuka, McMillan.
Come on, man.
It's ridiculous, bro.
You're going to put this guy over Nico Collins. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Well,
I know
he
you
might
did.
outscore Nico. I mean, he might outscore Nico. They're both going to, he probably plays more games at least than Nico. I'm trolling.
We need an eastbound and down with Rashee Rice and Brandon Ayuk and put that on Instagram. I would watch that.
Delph says another thing. He could get locked up and suspended.
He is stupid. He is really stupid.
He is really stupid. Rashee Rice has a really big problem with just doing stupid stuff and getting fined for it. I mean, over and over and over again. I forget what it was this offseason, but he had some sort of something going on. And then the offseason before that, he's in he's playing speed racer on a highway and crashes into cars. I mean, geez Louise, the dude just can't get out of his own way. And honestly, the talent, I don't know if the talent's there. We have to see it be consistent. So we'll see. That's the last player for me, fellers. So that's all. That's just Rice being a wide receiver 11 is crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. That's the worst ADP I've seen out of all of them that you listed. I can't believe he's going ahead of Nico Collins and some of those other guys. I think AJ Brown could be on this list. Honorable mention.
I was literally about to say that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I just don't know. Like I feel like that the Patriots are going to regress. I think that last year they were blessed with a very favorable schedule. They shouldn't have beat the Broncos, but they just got it done. The Broncos would have been a much better Super Bowl candidate than the Seahawks, but you still have to go out and win the football game. I think New England's one of those teams. They're my Chicago Bears of the AFC. I think you're going to see a regression like that. I don't think that there's enough talent there to pull it off, plus the circumstances going on with their coach. They won't get TreVeyon Henderson on the field. They love Ramondre Stevenson in all formats. I mean, they got A.J. Brown, but now he's already complaining about the offense. He's already complaining about it in his training camp. So you want to bring these headaches into your life, that's what you get. But he did play under Vrabel before, so it's not the worst marriage of what's going on. But I just think New England stepped back.
Traded him during the draft.
Oh, he didn't want to. The management traded. He hated that. He was pissed. But dude, the thing is, I don't really mind when my fantasy receivers complain about, because you know what happens when you complain? They give you the ball.
Yeah, that is something that he does.
Good thing. I want my guys to complain. The other thing, though.
Wait, before you bring that point on, he complained to Philadelphia, and they didn't give him the football.
Well, because Philadelphia sucks. It's
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I mean, didn't Jalen Hurts?
Okay, but
go ahead.
Think about it. Okay, so what is one thing what are two things you really like about Drake May, and do they fit with AJ Brown? Is Drake May a really good deep ball thrower, and does he throw with really good touch and ball placement?
Yes.
What are AJ Brown's biggest strengths? Probably being able to muscle people downfield, right?
Yep.
And just being able to outmuscle people at the goal line generally, right?
Yep.
I think we could see like a Terry McLaurin rookie year, Jaden Daniels type of season with like maybe another 100 yards, like 1,100 and like 13 touchdowns. I could really see that happening. Who are you scared of in that receiving room? There could be decline from AJ Brown as far as talent, injuries, his knee. So I can see some arguments, but like, are you scared of anybody in that offense? Romeo Dobbs, Kayshon Boutte. I mean, Hunter Henry.
I thought Kayshon Boutte has talent, I believe.
He's a good player, but is he better than AJ Brown?
No.
And is he getting
they're
paid
both going
like
to play
AJ
the
Brown?
same position, right? Boutte's supposed to be the vertical threat, right? But yeah, I mean, that's what AJ Brown is. He's not the fastest guy, but he's a big guy that runs straight down the field, runs your posts, your nines, your comebacks, and throws these scrawny corners away from him. I mean, that's just what he's done for the past like 7 years now. So yeah, I can see that. Drake May kind of fell off a cliff towards the end of the year, and then in the playoffs just kind of.
He played all elite defenses. I do agree.
He did play some good defenses as well. I would like to see Drake May continue to do that because we've seen guys in the past that, like a Russell Wilson where he's just got great moon balls, right? And then all of a sudden he just sucks at doing it. I think deep balls or pause, but like things like that where I think those are kind of like touchdowns in a way where you're just trying to hit it and it's just hit or miss, I think, with deep balls. And I don't know if Drake May can consistently be at the top of the league because I want to see like the trajectory of people that are the best at throwing the deep ball and see if they consistently are towards the top of that list every year. Because that's just one of those metrics that I feel
that is something that generally varies with the exception of elites like Aaron Rodgers that were typically just always up there.
Which Aaron Rodgers, I think, is the
even
best
Mahomes
football ever. So
Mahomes was awesome at the beginning of his career. Now Mahomes isn't actually one of the better ones anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Mr. Fantasy Football Strategist, is there anything you would like to promote, sir?
I'd like to promote Bobby's Big Board and Justin Paul Sports. Give them your money, attention, and praise.
Hell yeah, dude.
Finally, somebody says it. Bobby, what do you got coming on cooking? I know Bobby, ladies and gentlemen, Bobby gets promoted every month. This man has had like 6 promotions since I've met him. He's so busy at work.
Yeah, it sucks. It really does suck. But it does help. Everything else, I guess, just not as much time to do videos, but shout out. Look, I just hit 800 subs. So
let's go.
I went from I want to say I started posting again like a month ago. We went from 60 to 800. So we're getting some growth there. Had some really big videos over the past, 3 weeks or so. So if you're on the lookout for some more film breakdowns, I'm doing some more, probably going to be doing Cam Ward and Travion Henderson before the start of preseason. So if you're on the lookout for one of those guys, I'll be doing some film breakdowns on them. And just dropped Saquon Barkley a few days ago. So if you guys want to see what I thought about his regression last year, y'all can check that out too. Oh, shout out Fantasy Football Strategist too. He wins a lot of dynasty leagues. He's the GOAT.
He is great. He's always filling in when you can't make it because you're too busy getting promoted. And he does a good job. And he absolutely, like I said, we're going to figure something out for Bears Packers Live. I don't think on Christmas Day. I don't know if we're going to do that on Christmas Day. Bobby's got young children, but that's when they play their rematch. But the first game,
can't wait.
Figure something out.
I might just have to say, I might have to just saran wrap this room and just make it happen because
that has to happen. We need to get trolled on Christmas.
You will get trolled relentlessly because the Packers are going 2-0 in that division. 0-2.
That's right. That's right. See, you had the Freudian slip. You said what the reality is, but you wanted to say something else, even though the Fantasy Football Strategist, I see he's got his Bears jersey hanging off his lamp over there. And last week you wore it on the show, or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. But it's all good.
It's for the spirit. I had to represent the Bobby.
Me and him are wearing the same jersey. Me and him are going to wear. We have the exact same color, the exact same everything. Jersey.
And you will have to look at it and lose.
So, both of us.
It sucks,
I can't wait. I can't wait. But we're going to before I sign off here, Bobby, we're going to do the SEC show for the next month.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just got one question for all 8 of our viewers here. Will you have all 22 film?
I don't know. I
That was
haven't really worked on anything yet on that. Possibly, I might be able to. That should be relatively easy. We'll see.
That's my favorite part. I loved it last year when we did the SEC preview. He had 22 film on future dynasty stars. He found a couple.
Shout out to Ahmad Hardy before anybody even knew who he was. Shout out to Ahmad Hardy. He's the GOAT.
Dude, Isaac Brown. Dude, if he stays healthy.
Shout out Isaac Brown. Who is that? Because you're telling me
he's like Devon Achane, basically.
That's why you got to tune in, folks.
Let me see.
The fantasy football strategist, he always tunes in.
Yeah.
Louisville running back?
Well, we don't do Big 12 or ACC.
Oh, I'm telling you, he is like he is Devon Achane, dude. Like he is. That's
he's led the ACC in yards per attempt his freshman and sophomore year. That's crazy. Yeah. We'll see. I gotta watch some Louisville next year.
He's really good, and he can catch the ball too.
I'm excited.
And so he might be the running back 4 in that class.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Dude, I got all the 27 firsts in every league I can. I know you've tried to get some too. Dude, it's going to be an insane class. So much better than this crappy class.
You know what? We need to coordinate for the NFL draft next year. I know Bobby had some life changes, but we're going to have to do the first round.
I'm going to be so excited.
That'll be a good one. I'll make sure that I got time off work for that.
That's going to be an all-timer. That's going to be like the 2020 what draft class?
2024. Dude, it's going to be like that. There could legit be 15 offensive guys selected in a row to begin that draft. I was talking
about the Jamar Chase draft class, but 2024 is insane too.
21 was awesome too. Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be crazy.
We have reached the end of the road. I don't have anything much to promote except my winnable.com/Justin Paul Sports. I have my CFL picks. I have been crushing it. 2 weeks ago, I went 4-0. Or I'm sorry, 3 weeks ago, I went 4-0. 2 weeks ago, I went 2-2. And last week, I went 4-1 with one of my free plays up there. I'm going to be releasing the NFL Elite Edge. I've got somebody working on that little preview video for me. I'll have free picks up all the time. And next Thursday, right after we do our first SEC show, the next day is the Hall of Fame game where we see Carolina Panthers and the Arizona Cardinals in Dayton, Ohio.
Left of the Panthers by next weekend, or next Thursday.
Well, as long as they're ready for week 1 when they go to Chicago and win, it's going to be it's just going to be like, oh man.
Over or under 1.5 200-yard games from Bryce this year?
1.5? I'll take the over. I'll take the over. I'll take the over 1.5.
I think it's pretty close. I think it's I could go either way.
1 or 2 for sure.
So with that being said, well, when we're gonna have receipts, a lot of receipts. There's a lot of stuff on film, and I love to keep receipts on y'all.
I can't
with that
wait.
Being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank the fantasy football strategist, Bobby from Bobby's Big Board, for giving me time on that Wednesday night. I cannot wait for the SEC preview so I can put my Bama cap on, because for those that know me, my Alabama hat weighs more than any NFL thing ever could. But we like to talk NFL on this channel as well. It's all football all the time, sports betting, dynasty, fantasy. We bring a plethora of knowledge to the elites out there, because we are elite knowledge. This is elite talent right there and right there. So don't you ever forget it. And with that being said, we will see y'all next week.